Welcome, everyone, to this presentation on the continuing integration of Opencast with BigBlueButton. We are joined here with Lars Kiesow, which is a major contributor and member of the Opencast project, who has been working on the integration for BigBlueButton over the past couple of years. Both our projects have a long history together, and the integration is getting better with every release. So with that, Lars, I'll turn it over to yourself and let you introduce yourself. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Fred. So yeah, you may actually have seen this badge and this title slide last year, if I remember correctly, on the BigBlueButton World, where I did an introduction of how the integration between Opencast and BigBlueButton works. And yeah, this is more an update to that. But regardless, I will do a brief overview of what Opencast is, but I'm not going into any details. I'm more looking at how things worked in the past and how things are now, and so on. So yeah, let's dive into that. And so let's take a look at Opencast. And for me, I'm working at Austin Rook University now. In the past, I've been with a German nonprofit, but now I'm at the university. And for us, everything related to digital teaching resolves around our learning management system. And in our learning management system, so this is a picture of that, you have an Opencast integration. So it really doesn't matter where videos come from. If it's related to any course, they will end up here. If it's a lecture recording, if it's something from BigBlueButton, if it's something that the lecturer will upload, everything is at a single place. And as a student, I know that I can go there and watch my videos related to that course. So the LMS integration is for us very, very important, and we use stateless, but the same goes for other LMS, which are big here in Germany. So there is an Opencast integration for Ilias, there's an Opencast integration for Moodle, there's an Opencast integration for Sakai, stateless, and OLAD. So all of the major players in the LMS world in some sense have an Opencast integration. Yeah, and by the way, the same is true for BigBlueButton. So if I go to a different place in the same course, then you will see that you can go and start BigBlueButton from here as well. And so again, everything related to a single course is here. Now looking a little bit about different features of Opencast, and I'm really only skimming through this because, again, my main focus today is more on how things have changed. But again, it really doesn't really matter where videos come from. Opencast can get them all in some sense and archive them and present them somewhere. And so, yeah, you can upload videos, obviously. You can also schedule videos. So if you have equipped rooms, so you can either build your own hardware or you can buy hardware from Extron Electronics or from Adina, AREG, and so on. And they will then hook up to Opencast, and you can just say, okay, my course is every Tuesday, 10 to 12 a.m. In this room. So yeah, please just record this time spent, and I don't have to deal with the rest. And it will magically end up in Opencast and magically end up in my LMS course. And as a lecturer, I don't really have to care anymore about that. But there are also other ways of getting things in. This picture of the self-recording studios that Opencast comes with, so it can just easily record a screen share and my camera and talk, give a short talk to my students, and this is published again online in the course. I've done this in the past, for example, to give a short introduction to a course, and it's really, really nice because you don't really have to bother with lots of technology. It's just a web tool, so you go in there with your browser, you record the 5 minutes introduction, it's magically uploaded and to your course, and it will appear there, and students can already take a look at that. So yeah, tools like this are part of Opencast. There are also video editor parts, so you can see on the left-hand side there are more tools in the editor than just cutting. You can also edit subtitles and select tracks and stuff like that. Talking about selecting tracks, you already see on these pictures, often Opencast can handle multiple video streams at once. So you can have your presentation on one video stream, your presenter on the second video stream, and in theory, you can also have a third video stream. I know from a few medical universities who record a third video stream, with an EKG or something like that. And you can interact with these, so you can make one larger, the other larger. You can zoom into one or another and stuff like that. And finally, there's also Video Portal. It's one of the newer pieces of Opencast and still under heavy development, although there is a 2.0 release has been out there recently. So that's that. It's not in beta anymore. I think last time I've talked about this, it still was. And now going from the Opencast project to what we have at Osnabrück University, I did a quick sketch of how things look like at our university, and this is about it. Sorry about my handwriting here, but I think I can get the major points across. And looking at this, you can see BigBlueButton over here. And you can also see our LMS and Opencast. And the idea behind the integration between Opencast and BigBlueButton is essentially twofold. For once, with Opencast, we have our central hub for everything related to video recordings. And this is really nice because people know where to go. People don't have to look at several different places to find the video material related to courses. And so what we want to do is to bring all the video recordings from BigBlueButton to Opencast, and from here it can be published to our LMS, but it can also be published to other things like the video portal, like we have some portals hooked up for open educational resources, and stuff like that. And back when we started this, we also had another goal, which was, with part of the pandemic, we had very, very high load on all of our machines, and so we wanted to offload as much as possible from that. It's not as important anymore because we have far less stuff going on there now. But third of all, and this is more or less a side effect from back then, but on the other hand, it has become really important for us by now, and that is that the whole thing with transferring all of our recordings off from BigBlueButton to Opencast means that our BigBlueButton caster is completely stateless. So we can switch to new versions, switch to old versions at any time just by spinning up a few new machines, then rotating them, and if something doesn't work, we rotate them back. We can scale up, we can scale down. We never have to worry about any state of any given BigBlueButton server, which is really, really nice for the people at the university managing the BigBlueButton cluster. And people complain much more about the management of things like Opencast, where you have all this data. And we have, I think, about 150, 160 terabytes of video data by now. So yeah, this is essentially how things work. And the old integration and what I talked about last year is essentially a post archive hook. And if you read the documentation of BigBlueButton related to video recordings, you have two types of, or several types of integrations you could do. And you have that is based on the processing steps in BigBlueButton. You have this archiving step, and in the archive step, you don't really have a ready-to-use video, but that's okay, and that's what we are taking right now, and that's also what we have in production. We push over the raw video material from there to Opencast and have Opencast process everything and stuff like that. With the 2.6 integration, it's slightly different. There we actually have a little bit more of the default setup of BigBlueButton, what we're using, but that's not stable yet, and that's not something we already use in production, and I'm going to show you about that in a minute. If you're interested in the integration itself, that's also an open source project hosted at Elanify, which is a German nonprofit, on GitHub, and we've also been contributing to that, and you can just install that as a BigBlueButton hook on the BigBlueButton servers, and then it will push over stuff to Opencast. So yeah, you can just take a look at that. So yeah, as I said earlier, what we've been using for now is the post archive hook, and I'm going to show you how this looks like in a second. But essentially, that means you push over the raw material. BigBlueButton itself does not have to do any video encoding and stuff like that, which is great. But the downside of that is it's actually very complex of a setup, and Opencast has to know a lot of this about BigBlueButton, and BigBlueButton has to know about Opencast and stuff like that. So it's a little bit of a hassle to set up and to maintain. So that's why long term we probably won't want to use it anymore. We're going to use something different. But for now, that's what we have in production, and that's something that works, I think, since BigBlueButton 2.4, and we've been using it ever since, and we're using it still, and we also don't see any problems using this with 2.7, for example, although we, our main cluster is 2.6 right now. But let's try and let me show you how this looks, because this has actually a few cool features. Let me do some screen share here for a sec. There we go. Let's share BigBlueButton. So you should now be able to see my screen. And I'm going to take a look at, so this is just a 2-minute example video. But what you can see here is that you actually have a player with 2 video streams. And this is pretty cool because you can do something like, of course, you can switch them around, but you can also make one video larger and one video smaller or something like that. So saying that I'm actually only interested in the presentation, for example, and stuff like that. The player also has the ability to zoom in, for example. As you can see here, I can, if you imagine, I don't know, a presentation with lots of small text, and I'm looking into this on a small device, I can just zoom in, and yeah, that helps in visibility. And of course, I can also download one of the videos or a composite of both or something like that. And this is, as a user, gives me a lot of options on how to interact with this, take a look at what's interesting for me, and so on and so forth. So yeah, that's our current integration. And going back here, let me just show you the new integration. This is a little bit different, and I'm going to show you this first because I'm going to show you the slide first. So let's go back here, because I think it probably makes more sense to understand what's going on. So yeah, the idea here is that BigBlueButton 2.6 got a new video integration where you can already create a ready-to-use video stream, and it's just a single video file with your presentation, with your webcams, also with drawings on slides and stuff like that. That's something we did not have in the old integration, and we would really like to see. So that's something we really like to get in production. And it's also a lot easier to set up because you have a single video file. And I mean, it's essentially from an Opencast perspective the same thing as a user just uploading the single video file. Opencast doesn't need to do anything fancy with that. It may do something like, okay, I could process this in several different video qualities for adaptive streaming. Yeah, sure, but that's nothing that you wouldn't also do with someone uploading this. Sorry about that. Yeah, so the other thing you can do, let me just shut that. Really sorry about that. So, yeah, where was I? Yeah, the thing is that one major problem we still have. So it makes things really easy. We don't have to fiddle with integration so much anymore. The big downside of this is that one big problem we still have with this is that the audio and video are really asynchronous at the moment. And that's not a problem about the integration specifically. That's not a problem about Opencast. This is actually a problem of BigBlueButton in the 2.6 version at the moment. And if you want to take a look at this yourself, I have an example for you. You can take a look at this, but I'm also going to show you that. And I'm going to show you that by sharing a video file here in BigBlueButton. And you have a really huge delay between audio and video. So let me share an external video. Here we go. So yeah, this is me recording just a few seconds of video. Let me skip forward. And yeah, what you've probably seen now, so this is a video recording and you have an offset between me clapping my hands and actually hearing the clap of about 1.5 or 2 seconds. So this is not really usable right now, unfortunately. It's an open issue with BigBlueButton. It's also something that people are working on right now. And this is really everything that holds us back from bringing this in production right now. So that's the downside of how things look at the moment. On the other hand, the integration itself already works, and it's a lot easier than before. And so this also means, yeah, you don't have to do any fancy setup anymore. You can just throw things over. You also get now annotations on slides, which are really nice. And so, yeah, we are hoping that we can bring that into production soon. Final note from me on this is that right now, this whole integration is an external project. And a benefit of this being now a lot simpler is that what we could also do, and that is something we intend to do once our problems are fixed and once we get our things in production for now, is that we could actually bring this to the BigBlueButton core and have a simple integration so that you can easily just start using Opencast by not installing this additional tool or something like that, but just by setting a simple setting in the your BigBlueButton configuration for recordings. That would help the community, I think, because, well, it makes things a lot easier for configuring things, and it will also help us because, well, we also like have to say things for us to be easier. So yeah, I guess that's mostly it. Now let me take a look. Are there any questions? Maybe one last thing that I forgot. The new integration, you will also find them on GitHub, so it's already out there. You can try that. It's just that, well, you can try that. We wouldn't really recommend it at the moment because of the asynchronous audio and video. But nevertheless, apart from that, it does work. Okay. Are there any questions?
Lars, that was cool. Yes, if there are any questions, please type them in the chat. You can see the BigBlueButton project has been incremented into or integrated into Opencast in increments. Carla, could this integration solve problems with poor internet connection? Think of, I'll try this one, Lars. Opencast is downstream from BigBlueButton. So everything that's going to happen in your live session will happen within BigBlueButton. It will be recorded in BigBlueButton. And once the session's done, the recording is created, then it is passed on to Opencast. So the work, anything that we can do to improve connections, problems with poor connections, that's actually all on the BigBlueButton project.
Yeah. Maybe one thing, so if you're just talking about recordings, so Opencast will not help you, as Fred said, with the live sessions, but if you're just talking about recordings, in theory, Opencast can offer you a little bit more in terms of you can have multiple qualities, you can have things like adaptive streaming, where you can, you know that from YouTube, for example, where you start with your mobile device to watch something, and then you go into an area where you have poor connection and magically the quality of the video will decrease, but you can still watch it. So that's something you can do with Opencast. But yeah, it's just poorly recordings. It's not for the live sessions. Any other questions?
Lars, one point you made about making the integration for Opencast part of the BigBlueButton project, so that would be easier. That would be pretty cool. We are trying to make it, as always, very easy to set up a configuration of BigBlueButton using BBB install. And imagine if we added a parameter BBB install that said enable Opencast, and maybe there's some, I presume there's something you have to configure in the BigBlueButton server as where to send the recordings or where to be published. If we got this component into the BigBlueButton core, and there was like a couple steps that had to be done, maybe imagine automating those steps where someone has Opencast and they just run the installer, give a little bit of hints in terms of where to send the files, and BigBlueButton comes up and running, ready to go, and recordings start appearing in Opencast.
Yeah, that would actually be really, really nice. Yeah, so the main configuration points here are the server you want to send this to, and authentication, so username and password to authenticate against Opencast. There are more options than just that. So what do you want to send over? If you want to do special access privileges and stuff like that, you can configure that. But just looking at BBB install, just saying, okay, yeah, and please connect this Opencast server, here are the credentials, that would be pretty sweet.
All right. So I think we're coming up to the end of our time. Lars, as I said, we'll leave the room open if you want to linger to chat with anybody else. But thank you for giving the update on the integration with Opencast and BigBlueButton. It gets deeper. Can't wait to see what it is next year. It'll probably just be like, again, let's make it seamless and out of the box as much as possible. Thanks, Lars.
And thanks to you. Bye-bye.